Jared Beasley, thank you so much for joining me.
I really appreciate you having me on. It's great to be here.
Yeah, it's an absolute pleasure. You have written a book called The Endurance Artist, all about Lazarus Lake. Why, can you kind of explain why you refer to endurance as an art and this man is an artist?
Well, I think in general, there's not a lot of creativity or artistry that goes with endurance. Mostly it's a kind of grind it out, grit your teeth kind of affair. But with Lazarus Lake, you're looking at races that start with ferry rides, conch shells, the lighting of cigarettes. Instead of a start finish line, you have a duct taped sign over an arch that says there is no finish. So I think he's dealing with and creating experiences that are so outside the norm where the best runners are the ones that finish last.
Yeah, yeah, which is it's an interesting kind of race because the because you don't have a finish line, so you could technically just keep going. And the format of the race, if I'm getting this correctly, is you have a 4 mile loop that you do every hour on the hour. And however, if you finish it in 56 minutes, you've got 4 minutes of rest, and then you're back up. Is that right?
Yes, that's the backyard ultra marathon that he created in 2011. He has a dozen different races. They're all separate from one another, from the Barkley marathons, which he's most famous for, where runners
Yeah.
they hunt books in the woods for 60 hours. But he also has something called a race for the ages, where you're given an hour for every year that you've lived in your life. So a 70-year-old has 70 hours, a 40-year-old has 40 hours. If you're under 40, you're automatically defaulted at 40. And a surprising thing happened. So the goal is to run as many miles as you can in those hours.
Okay.
The average age of the winner, 68 years old.
Wow.
So
That's insane.
instead of creating age group awards and things like that, he'd rather create something and be innovative with multi-day races and ultra running to come up with something different, new and fun and challenging. But the backyard ultra that you're talking about, which is now in 80 countries around the world, it's become its own kind of sport, is 4 miles an hour every hour until there's only one left standing.
Has there ever been a point where both of them quit at once?
Oh, yes. So in 2022, and that's how I got started on this book, I had a press pass that was well earned. Let me just say that. That came the next year, but I wanted to get a press pass for the 2022 race, but I was unable to get it. The New York Times wanted me to cover a backyard ultramarathon where there was going to be 37 countries running against each other at exactly the same time. You would have a
Wow.
team of 15 in each country. So there was Malta, Morocco, Mauritius, Vietnam, Japan, Sweden, Denmark, Belgium, the United States, Mexico. It was really quite interesting. But in that 2022 event, the team championship was locked up by the Americans. Just suffice it to say that they had run enough and calculated enough loops that the team event was out of question for anybody else. No one else was going to be able to catch them. There was only a handful of runners left, but they didn't stop. They wanted to see what their limits would be anyway. A couple of individual runners, two in Belgium, they broke the world record and ran 101 hours, then turned around and stopped and quit out of solidarity. It was quite the moment in the sport of ultra running.
Good grief. So those, I would assume those were the last two standing. I would assume there was no one else that was that insane.
Yeah, so in that team championship, one loop for one runner equals a point. So
Yep.
to get the team win, you need a lot of your mid packers and people at the back of the pack to go as far as they can. So the Americans had a
Hmm.
really strong team in the mid pack They went really long, accumulated a whole bunch of loops, but then there were a handful of runners around the world, a few in Japan, a couple in Denmark, that kept going anyway. Because here's a little catch to it. The national winner would get a ticket to come the following year to an individual world championship in Laz's own backyard. And that's what
Mm.
I got the press pass for. That was in 2023. But at the end of that competition in 2022, there were only two Belgian runners left. No one had broken 100, and the hashtag break 100 started trending on Twitter. It's amazing that there's enough ultra runners and people that are ultra interested that get that to
Yeah.
trend like that. And then once they reached it, they turned around and said, you know what? This is about more than just running. And they quit out of solidarity. And then, oddly enough, they did it again last year,
Yeah.
this time with three runners from Belgium that they reached. How far did they go? 110 or 115. It gets confusing now because the world record is 119. But
Oh,
I
wow.
believe they went somewhere between 110 and 115. I'm leaning towards 115. And then three of them, three Belgian runners quit out of solidarity. Uh,
Good grief.
yeah.
What's making Belgian runners so much better than the rest of us?
Well, we're kind of clueless to this in the United States that this backyard ultra format is sweeping Europe. In a country like
Mm.
Sweden, there are more backyard ultras than there are marathons. So if we step back a minute,
Wow.
yeah, it's something that this format has really taken off. So if we step back a little bit, in the last 15 to 20 years, we've seen marathons, participation at least, flatline. 10Ks, 5Ks, there's been a decrease. In the last 20 years, ultra running is up 1,600%.
Good grief.
So if you were to look at a map 20 years ago of the ultra marathons in the United States, it would look like a small case of acne. You look at a map today, you have a serious case of chicken pox.
Yeah. You
Races are
need to
everywhere.
see a doctor for this. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's causing that drastic rise?
There are a lot of theories about that. There has been a trend towards extreme sports in general in the last 20 years. Sports like free
Mm.
diving, where you take one breath and you go as deep as you can
Mhm.
go, come back up, used to be uber niche. Now there are documentaries, they're free diving hotspots. They're seeing a growth of about 7% a year, despite 50 or 60 deaths per year.
Whoa.
If you take parkour, I don't know if you've seen these crazy ass videos on TikTok where people are jumping off of ledges of
I
buildings
have.
onto poles and bridges and whatnot. That is a $5 billion industry now with influencers,
Really?
sponsorships, schools. So these extreme sports have been really on the rise. There are some authors that suggest that we're in a comfort crisis in America. So much tech,
Mhm.
so many companies are really their model is to make our lives easier, to make things simple, to make our cars drive for us, to make our phones do the work for us, to think for us, to write for us. And marathons, unfortunately, have extended their cutoff time so drastically that you really don't even have to run it. If you just walk it in, you'll usually make it. You
Mm.
can run some of it and then make it. But everybody knows someone that's finished an ultra marathon. And for a lot of people out there, they want to try something that they are not sure they can do, where they really might fail. And
Yeah.
ultra running is the most accessible of those extreme sports. And it does get very extreme. Laz's races become extreme. The Barkley marathons, the backyard ultra, especially, those are very, very extreme. But it's easy to tell yourself it's just running, it's just fatigue, I'm just wearing myself out, I'm just bonking or whatever. And we've seen a huge bump in that. It's accessible.
Yeah. This also goes along with the rise of I think I saw some sort of study that gym memberships have gone up significantly especially with my age group, the kind of college-aged men and women who are looking for something difficult to do. I wonder how much of this is, tied to that just kind of broader, we need some sort of struggle, we need something, and maybe how much of it is tied to, like, someone like Red Bull, who's incentivizing all sorts of crazy
Oh
things.
yeah, I remember when Skip Baumgartner jumped out of that capsule from the edge of space.
Yeah,
That was sponsored by Red Bull.
nuts.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's like and the it's gotten to the point where people forget that Red Bull makes an energy drink.
Right.
Like, there's the Red Bull persona of crazy people doing crazy things, and then there's the energy drink over here. It's very funny. Um, but, so talk to me about Lazarus specifically. He seems to have kind of pulled this sport up on his back and made a name for it.
He has become the face of doing incredibly hard things for not a lot of external reward. You don't get money, you don't get usually much in the way of fame. You have to be doing it for internal reasons. It's a bit like trying to climb K2. There's nothing at the top of
Mhm.
that mountain except what you find inside of yourself when you get there.
Right.
He's been doing these ultra marathons, putting them on rather, since 1979. So for the most part, his creations were run in secret or with very few people knowing about them. It wasn't until a few articles came out in the late aughts, and then in 2012, a documentary was filmed and released and then picked up by Netflix, that the world really became aware of this person called Lazarus Lake. The Barkley Marathons, for example, has been going on since 1986. So he took the idea of trail running, 100-mile trail running. If we just start there, that has become the chic thing in ultra running nowadays. There was a time
Mhm.
for forever, it seemed, if you go back and you look at the history, that ultra running meant road running, usually running
Right.
6 days, 1,000 miles, 1,300 miles, and then they bumped it all the way up to 3,100 miles, which is now the longest certified road race in the world. That's actually going on as we speak. But in the mid
Hmm.
80s, the trail boom was happening. They centered around these 100 milers. The Leadville 100, the Western States became, it didn't start as a 100 miler, but it became a 100 miler very quickly. Now we have all kinds of 100 milers everywhere. There's something about Laz's personality that's really anti establishment, unconventional, and wants to thumb a nose at anything that looks chic. So he said, I'm going to create a 100 miler. It's going to be really tough. They're talking about all these tough races out west. Laz, who's based in Tennessee, says, I think those times seem way too fast for 100 miles on a trail to me. He creates the Barkley Marathons. In it, you don't even have a guaranteed start time. You have a start window, a 12-hour start window. You arrive in secret. No one knows when this is going to start. You're not allowed to tell anybody. It's like a fight club in the wilderness. If you talk about it, you're not going to be invited back. So sometime in this 12-hour window, Laz is going to blow a conch shell, and that's going to signal 1 hour to the start. An hour later, you come to a yellow pole at a trailhead. He lights a cigarette, and you take off. You've got books hidden in the woods, books with ominous titles like A Body in the Woods, Human Zoo, Undead and Unfinished. There are all these mind games. He'll yell out, "Good luck, morons." The number one bib, we all know what that means. Well, in the Barkley, it means something very different. It means you are the one that's least likely to finish one loop out of five. He
Huh.
calls it the human sacrifice. Everything was turned on its head, and it was run as close as possible to April Fools. So,
Ha.
so if you could take ultra running and broaden its inflection points to kind of include humor and a tongue-in-cheek kind of thumbing of the nose at the sport, while at the same time creating something that tests the absolute limits of human capability, mental, physical, your willpower, your orienteering, your woodsmanship, all of these different skills. That's art.
Yeah, that's art, and the artist himself, what's his story? Because that, I mean, you don't just accidentally do all these things.
No, no, you don't. It's it's a big story. It's in the book, and it took forever to get to. He's not an easy guy to get
Mhm.
close to get information from. So he has told journalists in the past, wrong information out there is okay. It just makes the truth harder to get to. When you were talking about Red Bull, they sent their writers to interview Laz. They said,
Did they?
oh yeah. They said, how did you start running? He replied, with my left foot. So I was coming into that world with all of these different obstacles. He gave me all kinds of cryptic messages, even a math problem to solve. Required me to come and run one of his races, which he knew I was going to do horribly in. But it wasn't about that. Just to get into his world. However, once I did get there, what I found was a very unusual person. A
Yeah.
boy at 12 who had a tumor that was growing towards his brain. He had a
Mm.
1% chance of survival. So the doctors gave him two impossible choices. For the first choice, they leaned toward heavily, which was, let's remove this tumor in its entirety. That's the safest way that we can possibly save your life. However, we're going to remove your nose, your right eye, and your right cheek. So, of course, being 12 years old or just being human, you would ask, what's the second option? Then,
Right.
then the doctors were a little more dubious. They said, well, this has started with puberty. It's appeared at puberty. There might be a chance that it will abate when puberty starts to go away. When those hormones decline, maybe it will stop growing. If we go that route, we'll need to trim it back 2 or 3 times a year, 2 or 3 surgeries a
Mm.
year. So to endure something like that, where you're going through your formative years, you're developing your personality when it comes to the opposite sex and all this, and to not know if you're going to live or die day by day, then every chance, every moment that you have becomes a bonus.
Right.
So the idea that there is no finish line, of course there's a finish line. Of course the race is going to end. It's a mindset to run or to live as if there is no finish line, because you can't afford to think about it. If you think about
Right.
it, you're doomed. And I think
Is it
that,
often
no, go ahead.
go ahead.
Well, I think that, that it informs a lot of his life. That's not everything that makes him. He's a really complicated guy. So, but that, I think, is the real beginning of thinking of life and running and sports, which was always his interface with the world in broader terms, having it mean more than just running from point A to point B as fast as you can. He wanted something different.
Is it often the case for extreme ultra marathon or ultra athletes to have some sort of traumatic event like that in their past?
I, you know, I don't think it's in general something that we can say is why. There are so many people now doing ultras that that's would be overly broad to say that. However, as a profiler of people, that's what I do. I don't write about the nuts and bolts of running. I'm not the guy that helps you get faster or helps you to fuel better. I write about people, people's stories. And of course, I get attracted to those that have gone through a lot. And there are some that do incredible things in ultra running that have gone through horrible car crashes, divorces, near death experiences, and they really find themselves alive in these events where everything is on the edge. That's their comfort space. That's where they can fight in odds where the that the pain is going to be a manageable kind of pain. if that makes sense. It's a pain that they can deal with.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a concept that you kind of choose your suffering, choose to practice suffering, so that when real suffering happens, as it does in everyone's life, you are more adequately prepared for that moment because you know how to endure, how to suffer.
Bingo. I think that's what he's been after all of these years.
What was it like when you were invited to? Did you run the Barkley or did you run something else?
I ran one of the backyards.
Okay.
For those
How
people,
far did you make it?
I did not make it far, my friend. I can tell you. I was down there as a writer, and I had been a professional writer, meaning I only was making my living from writing for about 3 years at that time, which meant I
Mhm.
was pretty wicked out of shape when it comes to these kind of events.
Yeah.
So I was also really new to that format. I didn't know what it was going to look like. Preparation is key. Having a good crew, having a lot of food, having a plan. I had none of that. I had a friend over there going, "Wow, man, this looks kind of interesting."
That's fine. Hey, well, it's your first time. We can't blame you for it.
Yeah.
Um, but you had access, so you ran that, and then he was like, "All right, fine. I'll speak to you, not in cryptic messages."
Yeah, it was a series of failures on my part. I think looking back at it, I don't think he gave a damn about how far I went. It wouldn't have mattered if I had won that thing. It was whether I
Yeah.
was going to pay the money, take the time to drive down there, because I had to go there on my own dime, drive down to Tennessee from New York, and to run this thing, show up, to keep showing up. I think that was the entrance fee into his world.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was it? I mean, you talked about a game plan. Surely it's just running until you're done? Like, I don't
Ooh.
what's a game plan look like here?
Ooh, it's not that simple. That you'll wind up like me if you go that route. So with the backyard ultra, when you're running 4 miles, it's a 4 mile loop in the woods behind his house every hour on the hour. Okay. So
Yep.
your fuel becomes important. You are going to have to know what you need calorically per hour to keep
Mhm.
it going. You're going to need to know what you are going to require at certain times of the day. You're going to have to plan for those things, and you're going to have to try to fit in micro sleeps. Micro sleeps meaning you got 2 minutes where you put a dark towel, I mean a towel that's gonna make the world dark for you for a few minutes and take a brief little nap. Otherwise, you really are going to come apart at the seams, which kind of is inevitable. But you want to push that back as far as you can to delay the collapse. So you need to plan for those. To do that, you need to run a faster loop than you normally would. Let's say if you're running 54-minute loops. Well, if you come in 54 minutes, which is a nice time, Laz has an air raid siren that blows with 4 minutes before the hour. That air raid siren is meant to wake him up in case he's fallen asleep, because he wants to endure with the runners. He's 71 years old. He's got a litany of health problems, but he wants to ring that bell every hour. When I when
Yeah.
I was there, it was 108 hours. So that is a feat of endurance in and of itself. So the air raid siren rings, blares with 4 minutes before the hour. Then you have a whistle that he blows with 3 minutes, then at 2 minutes, then at 1 minute. It's really hard to sleep during that stuff.
Yes. Yes.
So if you can come in with a 48-minute loop, you can have a couple of minutes to get some shut eye, rest, recuperate. Something that happens also that you need to really plan for is your change of clothing. That's going to
Hmm.
become a factor. If you get overly soaked, from sweat, because it got really hot the year that I was there, you're going to have massive chafing problems if you don't start shifting out some of that gear, changing your socks. These kinds of little small details become crucial. And the best of them usually have a good manager, a good handler, a crew person, as we call it. They
Mm.
have a sheet of paper for what should take place every hour. They have things laid out the way you would see, like for your grandparents that have a box of pills, one for each day. They have that. I've seen the exact instrument used for an hourly supplement.
Huh. So there's a lot that goes into this. Is there a monetary reward, or is it just
Zero
for the love of the game?
for the love of the game. And there's not a lot for Laz on the other end of it either.
Mm.
Usually for these events, these these runners from other countries, they have to get visas, support. Sometimes they get GoFundMe pages to try to get money to come over here to run it. They have a job they need time off from. They have a wife, they have kids. So he usually waives the fee or gives them back their entrance fee. He puts more money
Mm.
into it than he gets out of it. He puts somewhere around $30,000 to $35,000 in the past years in trying to build media coverage around it to get it to grow into something more.
Yeah. The Nick Bear, uh, social media influencer, I guess. I don't like that term, but here we are. He did one a couple years back, and that's how I kind of found out about this. Was he? I think he went for like 60 hours or something like that. It was not crazy, but it was very impressive for his first time. But then this sport has grown a lot, and it does feel like a lot of that is just tied to Lazarus.
Absolutely. He created it, the format. He brings out a lot in people that they don't know that they have. When the first backyard was run in 2011, the winner went 18 hours. Now, for the championship this year in 2025, there are over 50 runners that have gone beyond 80 hours. 50 runners.
That's nuts.
Yeah. And you don't have to be on that end of the spectrum either to get something out of these backyards.
Right.
If the longest run you've ever done is a 5K, then just finishing one loop is a personal best for you.
Yeah. This is. I mean, what's causing that? That's an insane jump from 18 hours to a vast majority of people passing 80 hours.
Well, a lot of runners found that they have a skill set for it. And I think that that's encouraged them in ways. The Belgians are ones that come to mind.
Yeah.
They are particularly hardy. They're pretty good at not giving up. And they also really have a team dynamic that a lot of other countries don't have. It's amazing in a race where it says there is no finish that you have these runners where it seems antithetical to what we think of as a race. They need each other to do well. They need the other runners to
Hmm.
go well. There is a little caveat in the backyard ultra. The best runner, the winner, can only go one more loop than the second best runner. So if you and I are running a backyard, we're the only two left.
Ah.
If we're the only two left, right? And it's me and you are duking it out, and we make it to 55 hours, and then you collapse. I can only do the 56th loop to win the race. Now, also a caveat in the backyard is if I don't do that 56th loop, there is no winner, and that has happened.
Oh. So there's just been some times that, okay, guys, well, that was fun. Everyone go home now.
Oh yeah, yeah. And of course that happens at the Barkley when there have been when I went there in 2023, it had been 5 years since anyone had finished.
Whoa.
So you're talking about endurance challenges that are not about winning and losing in the traditional sense. It's about personal limits.
Yeah.
How far are you willing to go? The Barkley Marathons is a race of can you do it? The backyard is a test of will you do it? The most difficult part of a backyard course is between your chair and the starting line.
That makes sense. The Barkley course, walk me through that one. That's it involves. Do they have to read the books, or is there just collect them?
So the Barkley, for any of those listeners that have seen the documentaries and whatnot, I can assure you that everything about the Barkley in person is way, way worse. It's just worse. It is so unbelievable. They don't know how long it's going to be, for one. Laz says it's 100 miles. And every year he says it's 100 miles. It's known to be at least 125. The course is in a wilderness above an abandoned prison in Tennessee. It's a crown of mountains where they have I can't remember, they have several like 2,000, 3,000 foot peaks that have been eroded away over time. So they're incredibly steep. They're full of
Hmm.
briars and blowdowns. 80% of the run is off trail. Now, what makes the course? The course is made by Laz setting out books, let's say 13 books in the year I was there in 2023. He sets out 13 books and it's in an order, book 1, 2, 3 on to 13, right? Well, that's going to define the course. How do they know how to get to the books? Laz draws a master map creatively. Okay. It's not a definitive map. Yeah, he takes some, liberties in how he creates this. He also takes liberties in the course descriptions, which you're given. So you're given a map, and the map, by the way, you do not get. You have to copy the map yourself. So there's a lot of room for error.
Yes.
Yeah. Then the instructions are something like if it keeps getting steeper and steeper, you might be on the right trail to the book. You get to, let's say, book 1, you have to rip out a page that matches your bib number. And that for every book. And so when you come back and you get back to the gate and finish one loop, 5 loops to finish the whole race, then he knows that you've run the course. You have all your pages. Laz will then make you go the opposite direction and back and forth. He changes it up every year. And all you know is that everything is going to be uncertain. And that is a
Hmm.
through line through all of his races, uncertainty. And that's what's missing in a lot of our challenges that we have out there now. There's so much certainty that we're going to make it, we're going to finish at the Barkley in this wilderness. No one's coming to help you. No one's coming to get you for 30 hours at least. You can't take your
Right.
watch, no GPS, and this place is nasty.
Oh wow.
Oh, yeah. Only 20 people have finished in 40 years. Think about
That's
that.
nuts.
20
Yeah.
people. Last year was the first time a woman finished. Jasmine Paris finished with 99 seconds left.
Wow.
If she had run 1 second per mile slower, she wouldn't have made it.
That is crazy. So they get is this so it's a loop, but there's 13 books set out. Is this sorry, I'm a little confused on the format
Yeah.
because does what does the loop look like so that you hit new books every time?
Well, so the books are in order, right? And your map has the books placed in order that you go, right? Let's say
Hmm.
clockwise. The first loop is always clockwise. So the books 1 through 13 are placed on your map that you see, and the descriptions of how to get to each book you will take in order, right? But
Okay.
you can't use GPS. You can't use any kind of device. You have to use woodmanship. You can use a compass and orienteer yourself to make it to these points. And what some do, and this is an interesting part of the Barkley, they try to follow a veteran. Because while there are tweaks to the course every year, usually several of the books are the same as they were last year. He doesn't want to make it impossible. He wants to make it on the very edge of the possible, a 1%
Hmm.
finisher rate. So the course is a loop of books that set out in order that you have to get to. You have to orienteer yourself to. those books.
And it's 5 loops?
5 loops. That's right.
So there's what that would be like 3 books per loop,
No,
or are the loops not the same?
so 13 books in 2023, that is in one loop, right? So
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
So you go out there, you do the loop, you get all 13 pages, and you have your bib number, right? Which usually has
Hmm.
a taunt on it, like "Where dreams go to die," or "The race that eats its young," or the bite is much worse than the bark. And then when you come in, you make it back to the gate, you make it back to camp, you can resupply. Then he
Yep.
gives you a new bib number, and you've got to memorize that. You've got to keep that. You can't forget. And then you go out there and you tear the page out of each book again that matches the new bib number.
Same book?
Oh, the same books. They're out there. So they're planted in the woods.
Okay. Okay.
They're
Same books.
Yeah, they're planted in the woods. They define the course. You can think of it as like a glorified Easter egg hunt. You know,
Yeah.
there's 13 spots that you have to get to, and you have to prove that you've made it to those 13 spots to complete one loop. And then
Right.
once you do one loop, let's say you did it in the daytime. Maybe it took you 12 hours. Let's say there was a 7 a.m. start, and then you get back at 7 p.m., right? Well,
Hmm.
now if you go back out and do the same loop, you go, hey, all right, I know the course now. I remember where each one of those 13 books were. But now it's at night, right?
Yeah.
So it's much more difficult. Well, let's say you make that second loop, but now Laz has you go counterclockwise. So now you have to go from the 13th to the 12th to the 11th to the 10th book. You have to do the entire course backwards, and it's in the daytime. So it looks entirely different. It's all meant to bring uncertainty into the race.
If the race starts at night, how does anyone find the books ever?
Well, they have headlamps. That's easy
And they've
enough.
got like a vague direction.
Well, you've got a map and you've got directions written down to tell you how to get there. You know, if it gets steeper and steeper, you're going in the right direction.
But it sounds like the maps he's drawing are just kind of like freehand. This is ish where it is.
So you've got a basic map of the area, right? Which
Yeah.
is a real map of the area. And this is the master map.
Hmm.
And then he has copies made for all the runners of that. And it's only of the area. And on that master map, he's drawn the loop with the books numbered and where their placements are. The creative part is, wait a minute, the line that goes from, let's say, book 3 to book 4, that looks a little squiggly. I'm not quite sure that's exactly the way it is in real life when I get out there.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. This is has anyone ever just not come back? Like they've started out and then just disappeared? They've gotten completely lost looking for books?
Well, poor Dan Baglioni has the record on that. It took him 32 hours to make 2 miles.
He must have searched every square inch on those 2 miles.
He, he got so lost. Then this is back in the day when you had the old flashlight bulbs that you would screw in the light and you'd put the batteries in,
Yeah, yeah.
and he wound up with that rolling off and into the darkness, couldn't find it. Got to a Jeep road, eventually was picked up by some stoners in a pickup truck.
Did he come back the next year?
I am not certain. I don't think Dan ever came back after that 16 mile per hour. I mean that 16 hour per mile pace. There was a runner though. So in 2023 when I was there, the year before, Carl Saab, who was not Dan Baglioni. Dan Baglioni was an ultra enthusiast. He was in his early 70s when he did that. This is before the Barkley became what it is now, which is a very famous race around the world. Multiple documentaries, multiple articles, and big papers. So in 2022, Carl Saab, he's one of the best ultramarathoners in the world. He has set the record on the Appalachian Trail and the Pacific Crest Trail at the same time. No one has ever done that. And he usually
Mm.
didn't break these records. He just demolished them. He's so good. In 2022, however, he made it onto the fourth loop of the Barkley. And then he went sideways. He was picked up by the local police in a town far, far away from the course, talking to trash cans in a lady's yard. Had lost the idea that he was even in a race, and brought back to the yellow pole, back to the starting point by the officer.
Did he finish?
Oh no, he was automatically out. He had gotten that far off course. He had lost.
Oh, okay.
You can't, the time limit, you have to redline it the entire way. You can't make a mistake
Yeah.
like that. There's no time.
Yeah. What is the time limit?
60 hours.
So 12 hours per loop will get you there just.
Yeah.
But for most, like, 20 miles, you feel like 12 hours shouldn't be that.
That's where everybody
You
goes
shouldn't
wrong.
need 12 hours, but
That's where everybody goes
this is
wrong.
so he walks this out before the event and places all the books, correct?
He used to. He knows
Okay.
that area so well. You know, he could go and place them. He used to ask runners when they would come back after dropping, "Where were you when it got dark?" Because he could then take that information and tweak everything to get you in the worst possible place when it got dark the next year, you know. Unfortunately, because of his failing health and all that, he has other people place the books now out. He usually places the prison book, which is on the back of an abandoned prison wall. It's part of the course that since 2010 the runners have to go through, which is a tunnel underneath this prison. It's really long, it's really claustrophobic, it's dark, it's scary. Usually, if runners hit it by the fourth loop, they're hallucinating already. And once they get there, they're really hallucinating, seeing and hearing television sets, radios, people talking, dark humanoid figures. The descriptions are pretty vivid.
That's pretty so the prison book stays kind of the same every year?
Yeah, the prison book is anchored in. Yeah.
Yeah. That's the only one though.
Well, there's another one. Most of them, he has some spots that he keeps. One is in a beech tree, in a
Okay.
hole in the beech tree that used to be a rattlesnake den. But
Oh,
oh yeah,
of course.
yeah, it's no problem. He assured the Hiram, who was the gentleman who was taking the books out there, when he added that to the course, that that there hadn't been rattlesnakes in there for years, but still, you're sticking your hand into a dark hole in a tree in a really foreboding wilderness. Hiram did that, placed the book. He looks over and like 15 yards away, he spots a timber rattler. He takes a picture, a really good picture. And the next year, Laz has as the race t-shirt, the picture of the snake, and it says, "The best part of the Barkley is the petting zoo."
Lazarus sounds like kind of a crackhead. I like it a lot.
Well, yeah. There is a
I
part of
mean, it
the
takes a certain
I was going to say there is a part of the course that's called Meth Lab Hill.
Okay. Okay, well there you go. It takes a certain kind of person to not only think this up, but also I would assume he ran it at some point in the past. He completed it.
He did not complete it. He tried.
Oh,
He tried. He tried to get one loop.
and he couldn't do one loop.
No. There
Well,
are runners that have been running for over 20 years that have never gotten one loop. For some people, and if you've been out there, you'll understand. For some people, one loop is the accomplishment of a lifetime.
right. Yeah. It totally sounds like it. Has there ever been anyone who was lost to, like, bears or things like that? I mean, the Tennessee wilderness is not exactly, uh, barren.
No, no, fortunately, the bears are generally stick to the Smokies over there, and this is an hour west of Knoxville. There have been the occasional bear sighting recently, but usually the animals that you see the most are wild boars that are out there. They've not
Mm.
really gored anybody. There's been one or two that have been knocked down.
Well, that's encouraging to hear at the least. Um, so did the Barkley start like this, or is this kind of has it progressed to this point?
That's a good question. He's always tweaked the Barkley. So, for example, the books were not there in the beginning, and all of the
Oh,
off-trail elements. That was a suggestion actually by one of the runners.
that guy probably hated himself the next year.
He's become a fixture at the races. His name is Frozen Ed. He wrote the first book about the Barkley, and he was the first finisher of the Barkley when it was only 3 loops. Of course, then Laz made it 5 loops and said that wasn't, the real deal. He called running 3 loops a fun run. So
Hmm,
is a there's a world of runners out there that only want to get a fun run. Their goal in their ultra running life is to get a fun run. It's a big deal.
yeah,
Yeah. So he's tweaked it all along and added different elements, put new features to the course. For years you weren't allowed to use trekking poles. Now he at least allows that.
got it. This seems like just an aggressive hike, less of a run. Doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of running.
It's straight the hell up and straight the hell down, according to one runner. It is extremely aggressive hiking, 45-degree angles on a lot of these climbs. Imagine ascending 1,500 feet in less than a mile with shifty terrain under your feet, with briars, things
Yeah,
like
right.
that. However, there are runnable sections of the course, and you have to run.
Okay,
You have to run those sections. If you don't,
right.
you won't make the time.
Yeah. Only 20 people have ever completed this
20.
in 40 years. How many people generally compete in the race?
It's capped at 40 runners per year.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is what are the tryouts like? Because I would assume there's some sort of entrance qualifications.
You have to be, yeah, very well qualified. There are people that wait forever to get in. Well, you first have to find out how to get in. Everything about the Barclay is difficult. You need to get an email address. In the old days, it used to be his mailing address and mail it to Idiot, address it to Idiot. You would have to take a multiple choice exam, like give your age in non-Earth planetary years, things like that. Fun, crazy things that make you think, where it's not about having the right answer, it's about your creativity and how you answer. You need to write an essay on why you should be allowed to run this race. And then he's going to select from people that have the best chance, one. And
Mhm.
then he also allows in what he calls some legacy runners now, these older people that have been trying for years. That so there's a lot in the book about this, but there's some conservation efforts that are ongoing in Frozen Head State Park where the race is held. They need to be careful about these native areas, and that is why the race is restricted to 40 runners per year. Of
Ah,
of those 40, he doesn't want all 40 to be elite. He wants a certain number that are there for other reasons, for personal reasons, trying to someone who really has the qualifications to maybe get one loop, or they tried it last year and got one loop, and then they really want to get a fun run this year. So he tries to balance out his runners in that 40 between the uber elite and the elite or uber elite people like Carl Saab I was mentioning
yeah.
with other people so that it's less of a footprint on the native areas there.
Right. Yeah. This and the is there any signs that that's going to like any of this is going to change, or is the format has been set, the game is laid
It's
out?
pretty set now. In 2005, the Department of Environment and Conservation shut the race down.
Oh,
Laz and a group of very interesting, determined individuals that loved the race petitioned the Tennessee State Legislature, fought hard, and actually got a piece of legislation, a resolution passed, saying that not only should the Barkley be allowed to run, but it was uh, a, an indelible part of outdoor culture in the state of Tennessee, a jewel of
mm,
Tennessee outdoor culture. And they got
right,
a stay, you know. And since 2005, Laz has kept his word. That's a big part of why he let the media in, to show the footprint, and that they are sticking to their word of only having 40 runners max per year.
right. Um, so this is all kind of insane, but it doesn't sound like from a journalistic perspective. I mean, you're not riding and you're not running with the runners. What was your experience like when you went to this? I mean, what are you just talking to Lazarus? I mean, what are you doing?
It's pretty horrible just covering these things. I mean, you start with the 12-hour start window. You don't know the start time
Yeah.
either. Nobody knows but him. So I watched a German film crew when we went to place the book out before the race. You know, I watched them, interviewing him and covering him, placing the book. They had a crew of like 3 or 4 people, and they had come all the way from Germany just to cover this. They get into camp,
Wow.
and the weather turned nasty. Everything is on a slant. Where you sleep in your car, you're in the woods, and it's on this hillside. It's cold as hell. The wind is blowing, and you got this 12-hour start window. They thought, yeah, we're just going to go over to the next town, which is like 30 minutes away. They missed the start of the race. So as a journalist, you're worried about that damn conch shell. You got to hear it so that you don't miss the start, which means
Yeah.
you don't get any sleep. Once the race starts, when people quit, for example, when people DNF and they appear like apparitions out of the woods. These people have got briar scratches all over their legs. They're wiped. They look ghostly about the face. And then they play taps for them because they're tapping out. There's a guy there that plays the bugle and plays taps when a runner quits.
Huh.
So as a journalist, you're in your car, you're trying to get some sleep, and taps keeps playing all night long.
Yes. Yes. As more and more people suddenly realize what they've signed up for.
Yeah, as he said, they realize that usually pretty quickly.
Yeah. Wow. So this all plays into Lazarus's. I mean, he has some theories about fairness and failure uh, that tie pretty directly into this.
Yeah, life is not fair. It,
Yeah.
and going back to what we were talking about earlier about this not really being a race in the traditional sense that we think of, getting from point A to point B as fast as you can. If it's not about that, then what is it about? In my time with him, we rarely talk about running. So I'll
Mm.
give you an example of unfairness and uncertainty that really ties into what he's about. In 2023, when I was there was a runner, a French runner named Aurelien Sanchez. He was unlike many of the other ultra runners. He had gotten into this whole sport because of the Barkley. He was solely focused
Mm.
on getting into the Barkley. It took him 5 years. That's all he wanted to do was get in the Barkley. In France, the Barkley is huge. Well,
Oh, really?
oh yeah, he gets to the fifth loop, the final loop. He gets to the next to last book. It's in a cairn. He's already done 4 loops. He knows where all the books are, right? And he gets to this rock cairn where that next to last book is. It's not there. He looks around. He's, out of his mind with fatigue and sleeplessness, and he still can't find the book, but he knows this is the right cairn. I've been here 4 times already. It's got to be the right cairn. What he doesn't know is that a hiker had come through there, knew about the race, thought the race was over, and taken the book and brought it into camp to Laz. Oh, by the way, here's your book. I found it out there just to help out. And a runner there said, Laz, I'll run it back up real quick. I'll run it up there because we still have Aurelian Sanchez out there, the French runner. He'll be coming to it. Laz said, no, let's see how he deals with it. So you go back to Aurelian. He's there. He's at his end, in every possible way you can imagine. Mentally, physically, his willpower. He cannot find this book. He takes the cairn apart rock by rock. Still no book. So he then takes the rocks and forms a circle to show that he's been there. I have been to this point. I was at the correct point, and continues on. But he's in shambles. Maybe he's come all this way. He's all these years to get into Barkley. He's made it to the final loop. He made it to 2 books before the end. How do you win this thing, He comes into camp. He says, Laz, the book wasn't there. And you could see by the look on his face that he doesn't know whether he's going to get punched or shocked or hugged,
Yeah.
Laz says, what do you mean, this book? And picks it up in a bag. And he finished. Aurelian had finished the Barkley. He had done the right thing.
Wow.
But how did he know what the right thing to do was? Another runner could have spent an hour or 2 hours out there looking for the book, and they would have been over the time limit. But when things don't work out the way that you planned, you've got to think on your feet. You've got to figure out what's the best thing for me to do in this situation right now, and have certainty about what you've done and what you can do. He knew that he was in the right place, and the book wasn't there. The best thing for him to do was to mark the ground to show that he had been to that spot and continue on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Did he come back the next year and find all of the books?
He came back the next year and did not finish.
Oh. Man. Can't take it for granted.
And he said, I don't know how in the hell I did that.
Yeah. And Lazarus's own life has been full of hardship. I don't know. Has it been full of failure that he learned this from?
He told me once, jokingly, but half jokingly, that he's failed at almost everything he's done in his life. And that's a big reason that I was writing about him, that's where he is now because of all of these failures. He was never a good runner. He was never fast. He was on the track and cross-country team. He had the last spot on the team. Then he invited his best friend to join, and his best friend beat him out. When he got into ultra running, he thought, I'll be good at this. I'm the grunt. I'm the guy that can really grind it out. I'm not big, I'm not strong, I'm not fast, but I can grind it out. But it didn't work that way. He was not that good in ultramarathons either. And that has a lot to do with how he came up with the backyard ultra, where it's not about talent anymore. It's about willpower and preparation, things like that. It's what he calls the ordinary person's Barkley. The 4 mile loop every hour, not whether you can do it, but whether you will do it. But yeah, his life, he's been laid off numerous times. He was an accountant. He was a city treasurer. He used to work in a laundromat. He's got 3 kids who he raised without curfews, who have all gone on to earn honors and get postgraduate degrees and things like that. It's really quite an astonishing way of getting people to achieve. He's not about the direct route, but it's really hard to argue with the results.
It is. And I mean, this is the I don't know what where does that kind of person come from?
Usually someone that is thinking outside the box for a long time, which he was doing. He was in, I don't know, 10 schools by the time he was in 10th grade. He had the tumor that we talked about, made it very
Yeah.
difficult ever to make friends and to put down roots. He lived through books. He would read so much that his parents would throw shoes at him to get him out of this reverie in front of a book to come to the dinner table. You know, he would read the back of cereal boxes. He's got unbounded curiosity. He would use different names. So before Laz, he went by Idiot, Mutant. Um, there's one interesting one called Germ. It has no meaning at all. It's just something his wife called him, but he wound up going by it and using it. He once said, you know, I never felt obligated to use the name they gave me at birth. So
Huh.
there's just a way of looking at life that everything, nothing has to be the way it's always been simply because it's always been that way.
Yeah. I mean, well, for the first question I have is, did he choose the name Idiot for himself, or was that bestowed upon him
He ch-
and he embraced it?
he chose that for himself. Yeah,
Okay. Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. Is this something that can be built in people? Like, can there be can you make yourself this kind of person, or is this just like, God gave him this unique talent and ability and he used it?
I would argue that that is definitely a nature versus nurture. Well, I'm sorry, a nurture versus nature kind of situation.
Mm.
This developed out of his situations that he was in, finding ways to keep his mind going, finding ways to relate to the world in any way that he could. So when he was in high school, for example, he bonded with this book called Creep. And it was about a disaffected youth that couldn't talk to girls. He very much related to that, having a face that was reshaped by this tumor. So the tumor actually was a kind of fibroid that ate away the bone and then hardened so it
Mm.
forms the structure of the right side of his face. And he was that kind of guy. I remember his first wife telling me he always wanted to be different. He wanted everything to be different, and he would say the most outlandish shit at the wrong time. And he would do it to shock people, one, and also because he could get attention that way. Sometimes I think all we do, a lot of us, is a way of our own way of getting attention any way that we can. But one time I remember that a story when he was in the hospital after one of the tumor surgeries, right? His
Yeah.
face looked a mess in the mirror. Yeah, an eyelid sewn shut, and all blue and yellow and purple. He goes running around the floor, scaring people. That's a kind of personality. That's a way of dealing with yourself. Somebody else might hide away. I don't want to be seen. I don't want, not going to school for months at a time. He was not that person. He was going to show up and be himself. And if you were shocked by it, then maybe he was okay with that.
Yeah. That's hilarious. And can you imagine being one of those nurses?
Yeah,
And, like, this kid is in, like, tremendous amounts of pain and like, he pops out of the corner and scares the living snot out of you.
right. Or the other
That'd
patients,
be that's yeah, the other patients. That's, I mean, I think this is something that, like, you kinda see with people who are or have struggled with something that is kind of completely out of their control, is that they find a way to laugh about it.
Absolutely. Well, I think it was Joseph Campbell that said, life is a game, except it hurts, right? The willing participation in the sufferings of the world.
Yeah.
And I
And running is a good. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh no, that's it.
running is a good way to practice that.
Yeah,
That's
yeah. You can vary your level of how much of that you want too.
yeah.
Yeah. This kind of stuff is not for everybody, like his races. But I will say, we like with all of the media that talks about Laz, and that includes myself, me covering him. We generally kind of focus around the Barkley in the backyard, but he has all these other races. We talked about the one where the 68-year-olds or the older runners usually win. He has different levels of challenges for everyone. There's a race that he has across Tennessee. You go 314 miles across the state of Tennessee. You have now, you used to could have a crew, but now you have no crew because the race has become so popular with the locals that they put out these stands. They call them road angels. There's all kinds of stands with food and drink all along the way of this 314-mile route. But you would be surprised that some of these runners aren't runners at all. They've never even run. They were locals that saw the race and said, "What are those people doing? I want to try that." And they do,
Yeah.
and they finish it.
Yeah. There's a saying that the hardest thing that's ever happened to you is the hardest thing that's ever happened to you. And if you haven't, or even if you have had tremendous suffering in your life, there's still a desire to like, I wonder if I could do it. I wonder if I could beat this thing.
Yeah.
That I think is just part of every human. Um,
You have to have that desire to want to jump into something that you're not sure that you can do. That's the attraction to
yeah,
his events. No matter at what level, you have to have that. I want to get into that place of uncertainty. And if that makes you feel more alive, then his races are for you.
right. And that is, and I'm tentative to say that that makes everyone feel more alive. It's just that it's also slightly terrifying.
I can tell you when Jasmine Paris finished last year, I
Hmm.
was covering it on Twitter. I was kind of live tweeting the race, and there were people in Europe that were commenting, "I don't know anything about this race. I don't know anything about her. I'm in a supermarket and I'm crying, and I don't know why."
It just has a way of bringing people together. We understand the amount of dedication that goes into something like, and especially for her, there was probably some mental barrier as well of like no woman has ever completed this.
Oh, yeah.
To be the first one to do it,
And she's a mother of two, you know? She was
wow.
right around 40. It's remarkable. And I saw her in 2023 to get on the fourth loop. She was only the third woman to ever even get on the fourth loop. That's how hard it was for women because this race requires a lot of upper body strength as well because
Mm,
of the aggressive hiking that's required. Yet, when I was there and saw her come in from the fourth loop, I was really taken aback with how positive she seemed and how much she had left in the tank. So when she came back the next year and got on to loop four again, I reached out to my editor at The Guardian. I said, "I'm going to tell you what's going to happen tomorrow." And looking back on it, that was a really ballsy thing to do. I said, I said, "Tomorrow, a woman is going to finish the Barkley for the first time. Jasmine Paris is going to do it, and it's going to be a huge story. I want it." And this speaks to another sad crisis that's going on around the world. He said no, they didn't have enough freelancer budget. The
mm,
way that publishing has gone now, what they can do is instead just pay their staff employee who doesn't know a lot about it to just give the basics. Jasmine Paris finished the Barkley the first time ever, and just pull some statistics over from previous reporting and make a news flash, but no writing
right.
about it. So Yeah, that was hard for me, and but that's the way that things are. Everything's hard. It's not fair. It took me 2 years. It took
Yeah,
me 2 years to get the book out, a year to get an agent, another year to get a publisher. There are going to be lots of people that don't believe in you, and if you don't believe in you, certainly no one else is going to.
right. Right. And you have to understand that it isn't fair because there's a obsession with everything has to be fair and everyone has to come out equally. And there can be no one that is left behind. There can be no one that has anything worse than anyone else. But people like Lazarus who struggled early with a tumor that he couldn't control came out doing these kinds of things, setting up these kinds of events, um, because he was able to take all the pain and suffering and turn it into joy.
Yeah, I'm going to paraphrase a quote from The Long Walk, which is a film that just came out. It's a book from Stephen King, which had a big impact on him. But why was there all this suffering in the world? Why was there so much endurance of suffering, seemingly without meaning? So I think that we try to find some meaning to it. We try to attack it any way we can. And a lot of us need to, experience in whatever area of our lives uncertainty and deal with unfairness the best way that we can, because so much in life feels unfair.
Yeah,
Just everywhere you look, and how you deal with it is what's important. Also, there's
right.
failure is a big thing that comes up in his races, but it's not just failure; it's what you do with that failure that's important.
What are the mental models that people adopt or take up that allow them to succeed in the midst of really hard failure in these races?
You have to really want it. First off, it's not lost on me either that when it comes to the Barkley, 90% of the finishers are STEM professionals with postgraduate degrees. You have a lot of engineers, a lot of doctorates
Hmm.
in there, people that are used to solving problems, usually getting the right answers. So when something has not been cracked or is extremely difficult to crack out there, they want to give it a shot. And they tend to deal with failure much better in a very practical way and unfairness. Okay, this happened. What next? They
Yeah.
say always say that the most important shot in golf is the next shot. If you can have that mentality in the race, you're going to do well. If if you have that mentality in life, you are going to do better than you would have if you didn't have that mentality.
Yeah. And it's strange that a lot of the people who really succeed in these ultra marathon events are not my age. They're a little older. I mean, you mentioned that 68-year-olds win the hour per age race,
Right.
but that seems counterintuitive, unless it's just can you deal with suffering and failure?
Yeah. Um, we've had finishers that were in their 20s. Most finishers I would say are in their 30s and 40s. The oldest finisher was 50 of the Barkley. Um, if you go back to Born to Run and some of the theories that surround that book and those other ideas of us possibly as early humans chasing down our prey, there's some interesting studies there that show that we have a capacity for endurance between the ages of 19 and 64 that doesn't fluctuate very much with the proper training. So if you start
Mm,
training anywhere between 19 and 64, you can get to a very high level. So I think it's something like by the time your ability that you have at 19 endurance wise, that ability, if you keep training, will only decline back to that base level at the age of 64. So it's a really large
Yeah.
window. And some of the thinking behind
Yeah.
that is that if we were hunting down prey, we needed, the older people needed endurance and wisdom to track the animals. And then we needed
Yeah.
the younger people with sprinting power and the bursts to go in for the final kill. And that goes to also why we see a lot of, in ultra running, there's not a lot of study on this yet scientifically, but a lot of anecdotal evidence that mothers tend to do very well that have had
Hmm.
children. And if you take that theory back from Born to Run and all that surrounding that kind of idea, that mothers also needed to keep up with the pack. That if this is a
Right.
nomadic tribe that's hunting down animals, you got to go to where the food is. You've also got to nurse the children while you're going along. So it's amazing that Jasmine Paris, she was the overall winner in a race called the Spine. It's one of the world's most difficult races. This is before the Barkley. She beat all of the men while nursing her newborn on the course.
Yeah. Whoa. That's insane. Is that I mean, there's the famous mama bear strength of like a mom will lift a car to get her kids out from under it. Is that, it doesn't sound exactly alike, but there's got to be something of that.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to test that with Jasmine, but definitely there's some anecdotal evidence that women that have had children. I think of Jennifer Russo. I saw her when she was 57 and running in the Backyard World Championship. She had become the first woman to make 300 miles in 3 days in any format. She did it in a backyard
Wow.
where she's forced to stop every hour.
Yeah.
57 years old, 3 kids.
I wonder what, like, why some people like, is that in all of us, or is that something that you can, that, what makes those people? Like, why are those people able to do that?
That's a good question. I'm not sure that I have any direct answer for. Everybody has their own why they get into it to begin with. And all we can do is try to piece together parts from each one to string together an idea of why certain people can go so far. I wrote a book about a guy named Al Howie. He'd run thousands of miles at a time. He ran 63 miles a day for 72 days across Canada, broke the world record, took a 2 week break, entered a 1,300 mile race. That's the distance from Miami to New York. This was on a 1 mile loop. You're just going to circle it 13,
Oh my word.
1,300 times. He did it.
Oh my word. That's awful.
And then that's part of the answer to your question. It's awful for most of us. For some people, it's heaven. For someone like Al Howie, he then ran that in 16 days and some change, broke the world record, which happened to be his own. For him, that kind of a run on pavement or a repetitive loop is his jam. Whereas
Yeah.
someone that goes to the Barkley, that's their jam. And they don't mix. So it's rare that you find a really good backyard runner and a good Barkley runner. The skill sets are so different. What kind of running they like to do is so different. There's just very little crossover other than willpower and wanting to do something different, wanting to challenge yourself and challenge your limits.
Yeah. And someone like Al, is it Howie or Hoey?
Howie.
Howie. Al Howie. 1,300 miles seems impossible. Um, but I would assume that it's just kind of one step at a time.
Well, that's true. Frank Shorter, the Olympic marathoner, said that the 1,300-mile race was impossible when they first created it in 1988. He said it's physically impossible. And for the first 2 years, it seemed like he was correct. There was no winner. And then Al Howie did it, and then suddenly it became possible.
It's like the 4-minute mile.
Yeah,
You need someone to break the barrier.
And
then it suddenly becomes feasible.
exactly. And what's interesting about Laz and the Barkley is to be able to keep pushing those goalposts out there. So,
Right.
how many times have runners said, Laz has gone too far now? He's just gone too far. One runner, Lou Payton, famously said, "You've got to understand, this is too much. It's too much. It's just too much." But you wait 5 years and someone shows up and does it.
A testament to the ferocity of the human spirit,
It's easy to create
at the very least.
to make an impossible race is easy. If you at the Barclay, if you wanted to make it impossible, just hold it in the summertime when everything's overgrown with briars and vegetation. No, and it's hot. It's 95 degrees.
Yeah.
No one's finishing that race.
Right.
That's not what he's after. He's after the very edge. This year, no one finished. No one made it even to the fourth loop.
Wow. And it's the same course. It's just conditions, or
No, he's tweaked it.
what?
He's tweaked it. Okay, they've reached the possible, right? It's done. They did this course finally. Well, how do we ratchet it up just enough to where we find out maybe a little bit more is doable?
Well, next year.
We'll see.
We'll see. Where can people learn more about this sport, follow you, find the book, things like that?
Well, The Endurance Artist is on Amazon. You can get it in paperback, Kindle, or Audible. It's there as well. You can get the Audible version. It's in Barnes & Noble. You can order it online if it's not in your local store. And Bookshop. There's a lot of people out there that love to go independent, and Bookshop will get the book to you. I would also recommend that if you have the time and if you are concerned about the way publishing is going around the world, support your local independent bookstore. Go to them and get them to order the book for you. Wait a week or two. Let them bring it in, and then let them make that sale. And then they'll stock the book, which is good for me. And two, you will have done your part in trying to stave off the great machine and try to keep the local creativity, because there are people wherever you are. There's a bookseller near you that's opened up their bookstore with a dream to sell books, to sell good books, and they're most likely right now struggling.
Yeah. Yep, I would agree. I did a whole podcast with a guy named Mark Beecham who runs Bull Rush Books, and they recycle old books and make them look new, and we talked about all of that. So that is definitely a pressing concern for a lot of people at the moment, and it's great to be able to support local people who are doing things that I mean, you're reading books, you know that the value of books, so go support your local business. And that's the other wonderful thing about Substack is authors are able to get their work out there without having to work with a publisher and press and everything. So where can people find you online?
I'm usually on Twitter the most, on X at DBJared.
Okay.
Yeah, they can find
Fantastic.
me there. I'm usually live tweeting the races, Lazarus races, and some other events. I'm on Instagram and other stuff as well, but not really anything that you would follow, just like author events or something boring like that. So yeah.
Yeah. I'll put links in the description and people should go check that out.
Oh, thank you.
Jared, it has been a pleasure talking.
Nice talking with you, Jackson. Thanks.
Thanks so much. See you guys.